Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, very good morning, students online. So, this is the last session of project closure, ethics, and digital management. So, this session is mainly meant for consolidating all the important basic areas where we can aim for a large number of projects and how to dissect those critical projects and what are all the impacts we can provide in order to ensure the reliability and the completion of the projects on par with the time and standards. So for which we have taken some important frames in this particular consolidation. So kindly try to get connected and let us open forum for Q&A. And finally, after all completing the basic frames, we can have a separate time for Q&A. So with respect to this particular project closure, ethics and digital management, we are getting into a series oriented action. So as of our session is concerned, it has been segmented from 3rd of August till date. It is a series, edu series. Like which project is also a series which is continuing and making all the comprehensive task which is completed on par with time. All the criterion, irrespective of any kind of groups they are focusing on, all the criterions are all reaching at a problem and identifying the problem and making the problem into opportunity and making that opportunity into finalization. This is what generally happens when we take up any kind of projects. So that's particular inputting and processing it and achieving a particularization goal, irrespective of any kind of specialization. So suppose, for example, I would like to ensure you if any of members of your class group is taking up any kind of work which is like a tender, say for example, taking up stitching of uniform students for all the government school students. This is a project taken by all the corporate social responsible groups, CSR groups across the domestic people. So this particular project, we are not taking it up for our profit, or we are not taking it up for our furthermore exploration. The purpose of taking up these kind of problem that the project taken up by an team or a peer group is mainly to get awareness what is exactly happening in the social aspects. So taking kind of these responsible projects which will have a name, which can increase your, curiosity and connecting networks will be easily available for all the peer groups in order to ensure. And this is going to be a series too. And identifying a right tuition master, going for these kind of taking up orders for uniform stitchings and giving them a peculiar identification of starting up ideas and conducting campaigns to those set of people who are all crossing grade 10 to grade 12. And these could be the basic examples in which the project can be identified, and those projects can be achieved with a particularization, and that particularization is what aiming towards conditional checking. And that conditional checking is really applicable on all business, obviously contemporary approaches, obviously getting into explorations and getting into conditional checkings, and those checkings are all getting into a next level of identification of cleansing the work. So these kind of first level illustrations, what I have mentioned, like taking up consultancies and identifying a social problem and going behind that problem, is what first level fulfillment of a project. Secondary level, I can take some examples which are all deliverables. Take for example, if you're going for a insecticides and pesticide control for a household individual. So in this particular individual household, taking care of all the insecticides and pesticides control, for which we are having a core team, and that core team is making all the maintenance activity. So maintaining a individual asset is what again the secondary level project core team does. So this particular activity is what they are the do's and don'ts of project team is what segregated based on their seriousness and sincerity of the service. If the volume of the service is increasing, obviously the team members are also need an explorative study. If it is going to be an open-ended system, it can be easily, boycotted, and it can go for furthermore activity changes. But when the problem is so very sincere and severe, we need to take up those problems under a project control. And that is what the series is all about. So we need to be get managed by hundreds and hundreds of people, which is end to end. All every activity under this common system is getting connected to a server, and that server is what digitalization. So project digitalization, project ethical consideration and project social consideration. After all, considering these two elements, I'm coming to a next level attainment and conditional checking for making the projects into next level approaches. So, as of the contemporary approaches into a business is concerned, we are voluntarily or we are directedly, we are uninterruptedly, we are taking some accountable elements, and that knowingly or unknowingly, we are taking that accountable elements into our zone, and that zone becomes the highly prioritized zone, what we call it as HPZ, which is a highly termed designated term in this PCD. So the project closure, ethics, and digital management have this direct approach and indirect approach parallelly, where we could not segregate, which is actually either directed or non-directed. We could not identify because of its inefficiency in information. So that inefficiency and insolvency, which are all threatening me, has to be controlled, has to be handled with alternate resources, has to be handled with utmost care. Then only as a core team, I can get directed and I can direct my others peer group members in order to ensure the rightness and the perfection of the project. This will slowly, gradually reduces the chances to close the project. So the occurrences of closing a project and chances of closing a project has to be arrested, has to be noted down. It has to be noted down as a limitation, and that limitation has to be monitored with topmost priority. That is what we are lacking in, and micro level management is highly applicable in these kind of closure. Rather than if we are into the macro level approaches, we can identify the problem, but we could not give a substantiated solution to those problems, and that will lead to furthermore deep rooted pollution or deep rooted corruption to the project. And this is why the project is getting into dustbin very sooner without a proper solution or without taking up it as a responsible element. We were not in the position to get into delegation, and obviously the project is thrown away to the dustbin. So on all considering these three things, that is, as of a series is concerned, as of setting inputs and outputs and making it as a complex activity, which is all dependent only on the one who is going to take up the project. What kind of initiation, what kind of ideation, and what kind of influencing. So, initiation, ideation, and influencing, this triple I is going to finalize whether the project is going to get into successful zone or into failure zone, and we are into the neutral. Actually, the point in which we are standing is neutral. Either we are going towards positive direction or negative direction is what the determination to be done. That determination is nothing but project determination report, what we refer it as PDR. Again, this report will be maintained by project manager, and that maintained report has to be updated by other project executives who are all on scale with the project. So when I do this, similarly, taking example as a simple notable example, we are taking academic illustrations. Even in our final semester project, we are having so many kind of reviews, so many kind of adjustments, alterations and reviews, and so alterations and review of literature. Second chapter has a review of literature, which is to be consolidated last 5 years. If I do a project in 2025, 2020 review has to be collected. Till then, it has to be collected. Prior to 2020, it is not required. So that 5 years of bandwidth of review, what I collect as a review of literature, is what required for my execution of the project in 2025. So if I go incremental in order, I need to reduce -1 from the previous iterations, and that iteration study is vitally important, playing a vital role in project closure. If I do this regularly, I can arrest the occurrences of project closures. That's all. I cannot totally eradicate project closure, even it might happen, but provided I can give a comparative reduction. In order to ensure that comparative reduction in project closure, I can do this as an alternate tool. So that is what I have bulletin. So the 10 bulletins what I display in this frame is what everywhere we are into monitoring. The micro level management lies on each and every point what I have displayed now. So the weekend upgrade of network system, building construction, pharmaceutical drug, and then product or service, going for a construct and facility. So when I go for a facilitation, obviously I need to go for all the amenities. Take for example in flat, we have associations. We have a undivided share, what we call it as UDS. We have a carpet area. We have a common terrace area, play area, balcony. So which is what we are paying it as a consolidated element. Whereas an independent house, right from A to Z, it is owned by me. Whereas in FLAT, flat, we are paying for the common area. We are paying for maintenance. It is all taking consideration construction of a flat as an project. The project consideration in considering a flat construction, in considering a individual villa construction, in these two cases the closure is very sooner applicable and very sooner misleading me to go for an independent house rather than a flat. I cannot own my terrace, I cannot own my roof, I cannot own my flooring. Just the air getting in out of my portion is what owned by me. In case of the flat purchase, I have this issue. So, with respect to facilitation, where I can have all the amenities under a common roof. So, for those amenities only, we are paying the lakhs and lakhs of amount and getting a very good portion with a lot of considering elements, end-to-end networking system, highly safe zone, which is what we are purchasing. We are ready to go for flat purchases. Whereas in semi-urban or urban area, majorities of flat constructions are coming down. They are not preferring those flat constraints. I need a portion right from the A to Z. I need everything to be dealt by me. I don't want to go for any kind of purchases which is not ensured by me. As a owner, as a asset purchaser, I should have this thought. I should not go for a flat purchase rather than I can go for a individual villa so that I can maintain on my own. So I need a commercial comparison. That commercial comparison is also what a project is. People are no, saying no to this, but we could not see none of the project is coming down. Everywhere they have started construction. Everywhere they are going beyond, and the city is getting expanded. Nothing has come down. The project is keep on expanding. It is keep on widening. But the thing is, number of possibility in customer attraction, number of possibility in making the project into consistency and going for block A, B, C, D till Z, and how many blocks we have, whether we have a new franchising or whether we are starting our own branch in some other portion. So these are all the things I need to focus on in order to ensure these things. What are all the items and eligibility criterions I do have, and ensuring the business opportunities and identification of a new transformation happening. By today's transformation, we are totally lifting a particular home and replacing it in a new area. So these techniques and these mission abilities have come tremendously high, and this has become a boon and bane parallelly. And this boon versus bane of these kind of advancements is what project closures reasons, and how the enhanced project can get into the next level of updation. So, considering all the illustrations, I need to have, as we had a discussion in the previous session of cases, this is also, these are all the possible problems I do have. As a scholar, as a PG research scholar, we need to get into a problem, identify its root cause, give an appropriate solution, and try to fit in with the optimistic indexing factors, and test it with a statistical tool and come out with your interpretation. This is how a research problem can be dealt out with a new perception. So everywhere in this particular mentioned frame, we have issues. It has to be addressed with the statistical purpose oriented survey, and that pre-occurrences and post-occurrences to be compared. And then we need to reveal a report, and that report has to compile all the records of this problem. So, taking all those considerations and coming to the most important activity of beneficiaries, how the beneficiaries, why I have mentioned all the important points, everything is considered as a first position. No one goes to the next position, everything is considering as a first position, that first position to be shared by these fellows. If I add as a beneficiary, take for example banking, we are adding a beneficiary, and sometimes we are waiting for 4 hours or 2 hours or 3 hours. It is limited now. In earlier time, it was about 24 hours of adding beneficiary only. I can activate the particular beneficiary. I can go for further more transactions. Now, using Google Pay and Phone Pay, we can limit my transaction immediately by adding a bank account. The minute next of adding the beneficiary account, I can share my amount, which is limited to an amount. So that limitation I do have, and it has been flexibly relaxed for me for ensuring the services. So it is being a benefit for majority of consumers who are all using that transaction app. If I give some other app as a competitor to Google Pay and Phone Pay, obviously it is becoming a next level competency, high level prioritization. Slowly, people will come out of Google Pay and they will start venturing into a new app, as we do for Wink. So the excellent example in beneficiary addressing is what Wink is. Wink has insisted me to go for Airtel Premium, so I have uninstalled Wink and I have got for Spotify. So the rejection of Wink and acceptance of Spotify is what project is today now. Why I do reject Wink and why I do accept Spotify? What is the reason in between these two situations? Wink is insisting me, pressurizing me to go for an alliance app. I don't want to go for those kind of alliances app. So I am coming out of this Wink and I'm getting into a new app which is highly user friendly, which is not torturing me. Meanwhile, after a year of using Spotify, even Spotify will come like Wink. By that time, I'll switch over to some other app where I can check my feasibility, where I can feel comfortable. So, in a small app itself, we are having so many discriminations, so many allocations, and so many disturbances, insisting on pressurizing the user, taking a huge mass volume of production, right from the pinch of the service till the maximization mass profitability of services. We do have corrections, alterations, customizations, and that is what the role of project manager is. A project manager must read the mind of a consumer. Then only they can offer qualitative and quantitative services. So that is what it has been mentioned here. The resources, quality, and time should be parallelly assessed with their existing risk management. So for which I need to gain a competitive advantage. I need to increase the credibility index, go with the performances, and make the delivery as early as possible. Setting up a standard, increasing the conversation time with the consumer, making all the performances with the respect to cost identification. So the evidences, what I create in each and every point must be prioritized more. Nothing can be compromised. That is what the point, the frame is revealing. Every point has to be considered as the first most important point. I cannot go for number two. No one remains the second position. We all remember Hussein Bolt, but no one reminds who has come next to Hussein Bolt. That is what the project management is also inferring us. The project management, if it is focusing on number one position, the closure will start from number two. I don't have a first three positions. The number one who is going to exist only will be the system provider or the service provider. Will be in the part and parcel of system. The number two, from the number two onwards, they will be in the closure scenario. They will be in a position to get closed. Obviously, it is like a pressurization. Knowingly or unknowingly, they have to wind up their business because of non-efficiency, because of insolvency. That insolvency because of non-risk assessment. I need to assess all the available risks, which are all consolidatedly effective, which is what we had discussion in the module 2, module 3, and all. We had a pure discussion on risk assessment. So, out of five modules, we need to consolidate all the basic elements and try to induce your presentation in the way of schematic way. So, when you try to increase the schematic way of presentation, it will easily know what is indexing factor over there, irrespective of any question. Suppose if you're getting five basic big questions, try to increase your schematic presentation, which will easily catch what is the flow of the answer, what you are trying to input to us. So the examiner will have a pure incidental references only with the help of schematics. So increase the schematic presentations in your answer scripts, which will boost up your score too. So getting into the next frame. So with respect to transition, so slowly we are coming out from the general management and we are getting into project management. So how it is varying, what are all the statuses and how the queuing theory actually in operation research will be dealing about queuing theory. There is a transportation, salesman problem, that is simplex method, duplex method. We have so many techniques to be followed in operation research, which is a wonderful subject. So in this subject, when we are going for any kind of Monte Carlo correlation, or we are going for any kind of methodologies to identify the feasible solution. So every single problem what we get in operation research is a live issue. We are covering a live incident, and that live incident is giving you some data. You are playing with the data, and the game theory is going to give you a play of a specification. The rules are given, and finally we are giving a iterative solution, and that iterative solution is what flexibly revealing you when the project will be indicating that you are into the diminishing area. So the indication what you get, that indication, like as of fuel gauge is indicating us, in the next 20 kilometers you need to be in a fuel station, like which a project must indicate us when it will wind up, what is the possible reasons of winding it up, so for which what are all the discharges of contract. So legally speaking, I need to go for what is the difference between void and voidable contract, so how it is getting into voidness. So getting into void contract, what are all the possible mistakes I have done. So I need to categorize mistakes in the checklist, and that checklist to be noted down with utmost care, whether this follow up is done or not. If you take out of 10, nearly 7 to 8 companies are focusing on a task which is non completed. Without completing a single task, they are switching over to the next task, and unnecessarily, they are wasting time in multiple task identification, and they are not into a single task and single objective because of non formation of single objective and non formation of unity of command and unity of direction. We are into multiple tasks and multiple dimensional approaches. This is what the secondary reason of closing a project. So this is a major element to be discussed on responsibility and authority and consistency. What are all that? That is what I told. Task or keep on changing. Whereas in general management, we'll take a task, we'll sit together, allocate people, and then if we have any queries, we don't want to go for those people who are all into the team. I can identify the one who is appropriately required. So I can go for, suppose in my department, if I'm taking care of all the website updations and I'm taking care of all the essential activities, I need to get approached. If someone is coming and asking my HOD has to reveal my name so that I'll get into that network. Apart from that, I will not focus on any kind of activity. These two are the most important activities. One is branding and one is most prioritizable element. So if I take these two categorizations, obviously it is going to be a general management. If it is going to be a project management like a work breakdown structure, as I told, WBS, if I have this, obviously it is going to be a element which is segmented and everyone will be contributing to it. Say like if I'm a placement facilitator to my students, one and only myself to be the decision authority in taking the placements and giving up their training and giving up their open platforms, on the job training, off the job training, on the job allocations, on campus allocations, off campus allocations, everyone to be done by me. Everyone should be directed towards me. But the problem is, whoever comes in, whoever goes out, everyone is taking up the task. Everyone will be the revealing factor of the task. And obviously, what becomes is the success and the final determination, the resolution, everything coming under a discrepancy. And that discrepancy is arising because of too much of tools. There is a saying in management, too much of tools waste the decision. Too much of cook spoils the food. Like which, too much of tools in management waste the decision. Obviously, the decision will be outdated and the outdated decision will never longer existing and slowly it will be into the scrap. So the decision should not be waste or the decision should not be useless. Unless and otherwise, if the decisions are correctively, measurably taken, preventively taken, predictively taken, we can easily assume which could be the possible outcome on making a permanency and non-permanency. Suppose in my organization, if they are not giving any kind of scale pay, if they are not giving any kind of allowances, allocations, then extra compensations, if they are giving me as a consolidated salary for about 11 months till if from, for example, June to May. So after May, I'll be left off for a month, and then July they'll be recruiting me. That June month, after 11 months of working together, the June month I'll be idle, so they'll be giving a termination order, and then from July they'll be continuing the task of the individual. So this makes them to non-claimable of PF or non-claimable of furthermore allowances. because I am an employee who is totally temporary. There is nothing called permanency in this way of, recruiting people. Why? Because that 1 month is going to be vacation. So why I need to pay for your vacation? So since you are going to be in vacation, stay idle. Go back, come again. Go back and come again after a particular day. That particular day will be with effect from July 1, you will be into the role. So that role also, there is nothing called allowances, there is nothing called scale play, there is nothing called DA, HRA, DP, SP, nothing will be given to you. No policies are aligned with you. You will be a role player, and that role player will be getting a consolidated ad hoc basis salary. So that ad hoc basis salary is also what breakdown structure is lagging over there. So predominantly, it is going to have a concern over people oriented process rather than process oriented activity, rather than project oriented activity. So they are depending only on process. I'm just keeping the people only for my record purpose. I don't want him to continue with my organization. I'm just using it as a pinch of responsibility. So whenever some auditing auditors are coming in, I need to show that individual as my employee. So for which purpose I'm having those fellows in my organization. Similarly, there are lots and lots of organizations like this. Openly speaking, there are lots of organizations like this because they don't want to people get connected permanently. If I get them with permanently, I need to pay for them. I need to go for gratuity payment. I need to go for settlement, pension. So for these avoidances, I can hire an individual like hourly basis. I can hire an individual for ad hoc basis. It will be even more better for me to go for these kind of hourly basis rather than giving them a fullest role play. Just a teacher is eligible to take 45 classes for all the 5 modules, 9 classes for 5 modules, enough. It's going to be a general management, not a project management. So obviously, we are changing the process. That is what the differences is insisting us. Slowly, we are into the changing process, and the dynamic approaches are keep on venturing into a new eligibility. And this is vitally happening in all the field, not only in academia, industry academia interaction. It is also happening in majority of organizations which are all expecting the people to be a temporary one, not into a permanent status. If I get into permanent status, I can claim any kind of activity. Even I can, after a 5 years of continuous service, I can claim gratuity. Can submit all the original forms which are all given by government of India and Tamil Nadu. I can submit all the forms. I can claim for n number of attainments in that particular gratuity. I can have even a private sector is intended to give this particular gratuity amount to a service holder who is having 5+ years of experience in the same organization. So these are all the things which is being created. It is an example for project assistant, for which we need to get a project assistant from a right accountant, right legal advisor, right recruiter. If everyone is perfect aligned with the standards, they will be surely intimating this to you, and you should have a basic idea on how they are utilizing this, how they are monitoring this, and adhering to these kind of standards is what literally people are doing, and making all the determinations, and then operating with the utmost care. So not only the task is important, operational elements, fundamental filaments, project identification, problem, grouping, adhering to the standard, critical ignorances, everything is accountable. And then only we can set the right measure, the right rubric or the right metric for evaluating the flow. If there is no metric, if there is no rubric, suppose if I'm giving you an assignment, that assignment must be ensured with the flow of action, which has to be noted down with some new tools. Then only I can enhance and I can enrich and I can equip. So as like a triple I, the triple E is also insisting the project to get in, enhancing, equipping, and how to make sure that enhancing and enriching or together supporting for equipping. Then only the project will reach its destiny without any collapsing or without any furthermore delay and second thought. So after all making this, I need to be in a flow of continuous improvement. There is Kaizen, what we call in quality management, we call it as Kaizen and Kairio. That is a continuous improvement and improvement over improvement. Both are very good terms, and that term to be noted down with the project's identifications too. So when this term is coming in, Obviously, I'll be getting a statement, and that statement will be so very adjunct, so very specific on industry. So we call it as of academia is concerned, we call it as professor of practice, POP. So that professor of practice will come weekly once. We have a new designation across all the academic institutions having this POP. That fellow will come weekly once. For 1 day of visit in a week, he'll be paid around 3,000 rupees minimum. So this fellow will come and investigate A to Z records of a department. Will this fellow will investigate, including all the administrative and academic bridging, and then he will come to a conclusion. What is the gap? And that gap will be filled by him by giving a full-fledged lecture on that particular day. It will be a day off for all the teachers. So similarly, we need to have employee of practice. We need to have advocate of practice, medicator of a practice. For everything, we need to have a one who is a stranger coming in, pitching into the field, evaluating us, and then giving them as a perception their own inputs. And that input is what literally required weekly once. And that one fellow has to be kept on changing, not the same fellow coming again and again. It will be irritated. That one fellow has to be changed. Irrespective of any field, if I do this for 4 continuous weeks, by end of the month, I can identify what level of improvisation I can project, what has been witnessed, what has been notified to my project manager. The project management can easily executed, or a manager can easily fetch in with respect to this activity, with respect to the promotion, with respect to the people oriented business. And moreover, I'm making all the elementalization, giving all the things and providence together into the initiation, planning, execution, and project closure. So the reviewing factor, the acquisition factor, the scheduling, concurrent control, the consolidation, and all the budgeting estimations, everything done from the beginning till end will be done like these kind of fellow. I don't want to invest myself. I don't want to include myself. I don't want to take part in these kind of activities or all routine. If someone coming as a stranger comes and do these kind of activity, we can see the difference. And this is what management is also doing. Like they will be terminating as a MR, management representative. So these kind of people can get into this kind of activity for making us an idea, for getting us a clarity, for giving them improvisation. So it can be easily mobilized too, and slowly it can give a correlation factor to get connected with the society, and creating lot of open oriented networking. So that opaque, open public access conditional checkings or opaque or these kind of portals which are all openly served can be even more better for accessing these kind of records. If I do have some any kind of access controller or access provider in an open system, everyone can get addressed, everyone can get a knowledge sharing sessions. And this is going to be a DSS, that is decision support systems too. We have a business analytics, and that business analytics is insisting us to do on this. So this is how a breakdown structure can be identified, and that breakdown structure is even more beneficial to all the individual. So after making this, what a project manager generally identify as a boundary. So as like as in my cricket match, I should know my boundary. I should know my grease. I should know the pitch. What is a velocity and how I can easily attain a sixer or a boundary. So either it is going to be a straight boundary or it's going to be a linear boundary. What are all the ways in which I can reach the boundary? How to score, maximize the score? Or what are all the possibilities in bowling? Similarly, project is also like a match of playing with 11 on 11 members on all fielding process, on all funding and defending process are happening. Provided the boundary has to be known, and that boundary initiating it, monitoring it, and finally delivering it. So we are having a record, we are creating a asset, and that asset is going to be a pledging activity, and that asset is going to make all the pledges and all furthermore actions, that is creating an auction or going for any kind of leasing or going for rental, whatever the assets we are having, we can modify it according to our own taste and preferences. If I do have 1,000 square feet of storage, I can go for lease, I can go for rent, I can go for, sharing of UDS, I can go for shareholders. So the particular space can be occupied by the beneficiary with respect to their own preferences, which can be modified and customizable according to the asset owner. So obviously, if I would like to share the resources in a monotonous way, I can control. I can, make sure the input is rightly pointed out. I can make sure the output is coming out successfully. I can identify who is my end beneficiary. So if the beneficiaries are known to me, obviously my way of commercialization, my way of execution, my way of project control, everything varies. If he or she is going to be a non-boundary oriented, without any boundary allocations, if I do a project, I don't have a target. I don't have a task. I don't know where to close this. If I'm not aware about what is my deadline or what is my destiny, I cannot run the show successfully. And obviously, I don't have any kind of intention. And that intention is lagging in major planning and execution process. So once after doing this and giving a very good group for a project is vitally again significantly get taken into influencing impacting factor. That impacting factor is linked with a lot and lot of system which are all notifying us everywhere. So if I try to subscribe some channel, take for example YouTube channel. If I'm subscribing your YouTube channel, I'll be getting notification of all the relevant information what you post as a social inclusion. So it is like similar to subscribing a YouTube channel. The project is getting identified. What is the next step of the project manager? If the project manager is getting into a cloud connection, he is getting notified, and that notification is literally important for all the people who are all the subscribers and the followers of that fellow. So as a effective individual or managing things into equipping control, they can expect these kind of followers to get into that zone. So if I have a possible zone in this manner of action, I can easily attract my consumers and I can know who is my ready end user and end beneficiary. And similar to this, I have lot of acceptances too, and parallelly ignorances too. What could be the remedy for ignorances and what are all the next level of updation for acceptances? So how I can recommend the same project to someone who is my competitor. Suppose, for example, I'll give you an example. If I have a own theater, suppose if I do have some way of advertising things, we do get some informations in breaks and all, in the intervals and all, will be displaying for advertisement contact so and so number. So as of project manager is concerned, advertising in those mass media where people gather more, where people acquire informations more, chit chat more. It is about 4 shows per day, nearly around 4 to 5 intervals. In this particular intervals, what are all they are displaying, how people are taking at the, what are all the takeaways of the consumers, who are all the visitors. So hardly per day 4 shows, nearly 1,000 to 1,500 people are visiting a day, particular day, and that 1,500 people, if 10% is getting converted to business, it is becoming an input for process, and that is how project is getting initiated. So where we can commercially advertise things, and what is the most visited location? Take for example bus station, railway station, hospital. What is the most visited place in my area where I can place the right advertisement without disturbing the fellow being? So these kind of attracting and connecting people is what we need to do primarily and predominantly. And once after doing this, we should not stay idle. We should start procuring data. That data is obviously getting into a deliverable, and that will give you a work result which is implemented with all the standards and corrective actions. If it is not done, then obviously controlling process will eject the process into closure. So that equilibrium between control and execution, I need to have that equilibrium. That is a result implementation and recommending. If this is not done parallelly, If it is not going in a parallel version, obviously I should close. There is no other way, because it is not having a vital energy, or it is not having a supporting system. So it is getting into a dilution. So without a proper substitution, I cannot furthermore dilute. So with respect to the furthermore, after a closure period, we can come back again. As like Ford is planning to hit the market again, they can come again with their existing product, and they can achieve the same target what they had previously, and they can reveal their milestones. Even if they come by 2026 also, they have the market ready reckoned available for all the elements which are all allied to the food. They can pitch the market with some other innovations also, not only in automobiles. They are having ideas and giving them a new kind of equipments, and giving them service oriented options, and delivering all the goods under a particular scripted way. So what is the synergy the food is having? What is the connecting factor the food is having with their regularity? So what are all the alliances elements they are focusing on? What is the logistical activity? What is the transportation activity? How do they, rely on customers, and how do they rely on productivity? So these are all the things what a comeback can also give. Even coming back is not fine, but coming back with the new energy and coming back with the booster factors, and those booster factors is also making the projects to enhance more. So this is how a planning phase can also be, done with utmost perspective. And once after doing this qualitative adjustments, I need to go with the analysis of CBQ, that is cost benefit quotation. Once after CBQ, that is giving a proper quotation, benefit quotation, I need to go for COQ, that is cost of quality. So once after identifying what is my benefit, what is my outcome, indicating that benefit only will indicate what is the quality, and that quality indication is only will give you a cost indication. That cost indication is only going to give you a project indication. So this is a recommended mobilizable strategy for all the individual across this process space, and giving them a sample which is all making all the conditional checkings to get into a linkages. I'll give you an example. Publishing your own article, or giving your contribution to a newsletter or magazine. Suppose if your art or if your work is coming in a magazine, it has to get validated. So parallelly, at the end of this article, you will be having a QR code, or like a link. If it is going to be a soft copy, I need to have a DOI link, a digital object identifier. So that DOI link has to be noted down, and that link has to be existed furthermore for giving any kind of article subscription. So when I submit a manuscript, it is getting validated, it is getting into so many revisions. After nth revision, it is coming out as an article published in a journal, and that journal is highly cited, it is referred, it is maximum cited by all the portals like Google Scholar, Scopus, with one. We do have so many portals: Web of Science, Clarivate Analysis. And those portals and all giving us a maximum outreach. And that outreach, what I get for my article is nothing like, it is not equivalent to money. It is more than money. So maximum reach what I get out of my article is like script oriented, the quality of script, indexing of scripts, where do I collect data, what is the quality of data, how do I assure you this particular data is highly sufficient and more enough in making the systems into consideration, and giving them a clarity on giving all the allocated elements, and making all the statistical surveys into considerable elements, and giving this elements into finalization. So for which quality tools are used, making non-qualitative elements, and giving you a clarity on how quality and non-qualitative elements are creating you a conformance. So this is how we are ready make all the mechanism as data driven. If I diffuse this quality into project, surely I can assume, I can see, I can witness the data driven mechanism has come forward. It has becoming a new role. It has started venturing into the system. It is something making me a change. I can notify the change actually. This is what the outcome of this, the quality diffusion. So once after doing quality diffusion, what a manager should do? creating a chart or creating a procurement chart. So I need to have a chart which is like making all the Kanban boards, what to do and what to be done and whether it is done, what is a follow up, what is the tenure, what is the time taken, and how the budget is flexible. Whether I do have a changes in budget, how I can manipulate. If there is a change in budget, how I can cope up. So these things has to be noted down. As a stakeholder, I need to have this idea. Without knowing this, I cannot assure the client that you can have the customized budget. You can come with any kind of money. So I can consider all the inputs without any furthermore security. I cannot say. Without security, no one is ready to fund you. Without a meager security, no one is ready to fund you. Likewise, without a meager documentation, no one is ready to take up the project. Without a WBS, no one is taking a project because of lack of WBS. The project is closing. If there is no work breakdown structure, obviously the project will enter into the negative market and project will enter into the gray shade. That gray shade is nothing but risking. Collecting lack of collaboration will also give you more number of risk. If something is going showing me a symptom that my project is about to close, sharply join with someone who is successful. That is a immediate remedy. Suppose if I have a immediate industrial sickness, I should join hands with one who is successful. If I'm not joining hands with successful persons, obviously I'll be in a learning phase or earning phase. Either of these two will happen. Either you should learn or learn. Both earning and learning should be done parallelly in this particular project. If it is not done, obviously you will be out of the competition. That being out of the competition is not only just removing your index from table of content. It is totally eradicating, and after pitching in, for which the pitching in again, it is also insisting us to do a remedial measure. It is also a waiting period, normalizing period, and then coming back. What are all the formalities to be done, and how the formalities can be met out? And again, these things are making the work more so very complicated. So this is the main reason for all the projects to get into a zone of proximized zone of negative backup. So negative background is because of these kind of lack of proximity. So together, consolidatedly together, all these elements to be communicated, all these to be openly portal access, open portal access must be there to packs. So those portal access has to be done to all the elements, irrespective of any, even a small information in this open portal access must be given to all the resources finders and the stakeholders. If not done, it is to be corrected. It is to be work breakdown. So the work breakdown is mainly essential, right? From the procurement of the raw material to my workflows till the packaging of the product and reaching the customer. It is to be noted down with utmost security. What are all the security protocols I do have, and how do I correct those measures? What is the remedial action I am taking? What is the main installation procedure I am doing? Whether everything is open to everyone. I should not have any kind of lack of information which is out of my concurrent control. I should make everything under a common system, and that system has to be accessible. The priority in access is what the first level attainment of a project. Then only I can know which is a right office automation software, which is the right protocol, which is the right project management protocol, PMP. That PMP software is again like an ERP. I need to make access to everyone. If there is all resources allocated, I need to have these resource allocators in their manipulated activity for which everyone login credentials must be given. Everyone must access this, and it has to be tracked. And that tracking is what really essential. Everyone is having the system, but no one is following up the system. Slowly, the partial following up of the system is coming down, and without a proper record, they cannot explore further. And hope so. This could be the reason for again vulnerating the projects again. The project's vulnerability will furthermore expand, will furthermore get deviated. So these kind of deviations and these kind of lackness will make all the mobilizations to come out, and vendors who are all the part and parcel of projects will move out because of non-substantiation, because of non-subscription, and slowly it is coming down. That non-confidence is making all the customers and vendors to come out. So these are all the pitching areas where we can avoid, where we can slowly avoid and procure these kind of elements, and in the right manner, if I can drive towards the right destiny, obviously the project will have the right WBS. So that work breakdown structure, if I do have in a right manner, not giving any kind of partiality, not providing any kind of insolvency. If I do this in a right manner, obviously WBS will insist a project to stay active, stay live. It will not make the project to get into death. It will not make the project to die. And that last lifeline of a project will be one and only will be on WBS. Fundamentally, if I do this, slowly it will gradually hold me, extend me, and give me like a warranty that the project will furthermore stay alive. If I do have a clear cut breakdown structure, if there is no breakdown structure, I need to alter it. I need to recollect more and more things again. I cannot, uniform allocations will not be there. I cannot make any kind of consulting activity. If I run the show like a one man show, I cannot be a coordinated project manager. I cannot be a project executive. And that lack of coordination is again making me and coming out of the market and pull me down towards the competition. And that pulling factor and pushing factor is existing. It is nowhere changing actually. In project management, pulling factor and pushing factor is one and the same. Right from beginning till end, it is one and the same. It will not change forever. Attentions to be done, corrections to be done, equipments to be done, parallelly experiments to be done, and then only we can identify which is the right path for executor to get into the flow of action. So this is what enter your consolidation of all five modules across the five modules of your project closure ethics and digital management. It is going to be a flow of action in which I can ensure these kind of activities are highly prioritizable and highly vulnerable too. So on consolidating all these things, what I suggest on a last end note of PCDM, what I suggest for all people online is, while you're appearing for these kind of examinations, quotations to be included more. Go with like checklist oriented illustration and framework oriented illustration, and give them as a mitigated report. So lot of mitigations to be done as a mitigated report. If you have surfing of about a lot of events, as I gave some around 10 cases, those 10 cases surf on those 10 cases. We'll be getting like mitigated report, MR, what we call it as. So that mitigation in planning and mitigated report, what you collect out of surfing a lot from the cases, you know where the project is giving birth and where the project is diluted and where the project is dying and where the project is buried. So our process is not to bury the project, make the project alive, give some supporting systems. Like our project should not get into ICU, and rather than getting into ICU, what are all the care can be taken in order to make the project alive, rather than closing it and burying it. So this is what the last end note of this, and give some annexures in answering. Without annexures, if you answer it in a non-detailed way of subscripting it, it will not give you a clarity. So make sure that everyone should ensure while appearing for any kind of answering, give it as a annexure oriented. That is really important. So with this, I'll close for today. Last frame is for you, open forum for Q&A. So because this is going to be the last session, you can come for any kind of Q&A. With this, I'll close. Any typical doubts on PCEDM apart from content? Hope so. You should have got a 12 varied frames, nearly 10 to 15 frames in each and every session. Around 10 sessions, so 12 session will be having 120 to 140 frames. And those 140 frames is much more enough for you to create a hint. Apart from this, any kind of Q&A, you can come forward. It is an open channel. You can pitch in any kind of questions related to the subject. Any queries on this? Fine. So take my suggestions and try to diffuse these suggestions in your final examination. So all the very best for all the people who are all online. So with this, I'll close. Thank you. Thanks for your cooperation. Thanks for your attendance. Thanks for being consistent in attending the session. Ensure that everyone is appearing for the fullest confidence and giving all the credits to the department, and ensure that everyone is following some pattern oriented illustrations, which is what I expected in examinations. So good luck to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.